Yes.
Hi, Caleb.
All right. Very good. Well, in no way do I want to put the two of you on the spot, but I think it's worthy of the discussion. So since recording has started, let me introduce that this is the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force Index Subcommittee on October 3rd, 2024. We do not have a quorum by any means, and we are going to proceed in an informal way. So I will start by reading the land acknowledgement. The land acknowledgement statement is: before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people, who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Thank you, and welcome, Perry. This is, oh, good, Peter's signing on. Welcome, Peter. We are just getting started, Peter, and we don't have a quorum. Jenna, how many do we need for a quorum? Do you know?
We need 7.
Well, we may not get our quorum today. At the same time,
I can help get the quorum. Let me go down the hallway.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Perry. And Peter, while Perry's just walking out, I was saying I think that there's some items that I would like to discuss informally, even if we don't get a quorum. So I'm decided to go ahead and proceed.
Yes, please.
Yes, and so I'm going to wait a moment while Perry sees who he can round up. It's probably a sign of what we're going to discuss that we have a hard time getting members to this committee. So I think that, but as you can see from looking at the agenda, to me, the most important item in our short hour is to discuss our mission, and I think it has changed significantly, and we need to decide what our role is. How'd you do, Perry?
I think so. Janice and Rick are both, I think, on as attendees.
Oh, let's
And if we
promote
can
them.
promote them to
Thank you.
whatever the term is.
Yep, panelists.
Panelists, thank you.
Good.
I should know that after all these.
Oh, I know.
Rick is nowhere to be seen yet, but
Janice should be there. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, welcome, Johnny's.
Is that, are we closer?
Yes, but not quite there. But we can wait and see. And in the meantime, I would like to proceed because, as I was saying while you were rounding folks up, Perry, I think the lack of attendance is sort of indicative of what we need to talk about. You know, this is a bit of a subcommittee adrift, and I think we need to decide if we have any role, and if so, what that role is. So without further ado, I will just go ahead and start. And I scheduled a couple of updates for folks that weren't involved. And Dean, I realize that Caleb and Perry may already be up to date on this, but just for the record, do you mind giving us a status report of the performance measurement plan that's been proposed?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So basically where we're at is that we have a contract negotiated with a firm called Village Reach. They actually have done business with the county recently, preparing a similar kind of an evaluation plan for the the Healthy Children's Fund. And so I think they're familiar with the county in that respect. I just yesterday or the day before saw some communication between Jesse Thompson, the department's contracts person, and the representative from Village Reach, that they had a couple of final tweaks on the contract, but that it's in finance, for their review, after which it goes to executive for signature. So I think the Village Reach people are poised, ready to go. Their statement of work basically is clear, I think. If this group hasn't seen that contract and would like to see it, I think it'd be useful to see what their scope of work is.
Is there anyone who hasn't seen it? We're all in so many levels of committees that it sounds like everybody's seen it in some way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, just to sort of put a point on that, it would seem to me that one of the first meetings they would want to have is with this committee. And those of you who were in the big data stakeholders meeting, was that just this past
It was
Monday?
Monday, yeah. I know.
I think the sentiment was, let's try to use existing groups who are meeting as the way to have these consultants gather information about what people's wants and desires are as it relates to data and measures. And so I would assume it would be helpful to have a special meeting of this committee for them to hear from you all, both what is the work that's been done, what are the kinds of measures that you all have talked about over the years and have in mind now, as a good starting point. And then I think they'll continue to have those kinds of meetings with other groups, the whole IPRTF committee they may want to meet with, or the various other committees, as well as I think the J-POP when it first convenes, and then some ad hoc meetings I suspect that they'll want once they get to know who all the players are and what their interests are.
Well, thank you. That's helpful. And I guess we're just waiting for the timeline now. So there we are. Will you let us know when it goes live? Would that be?
I absolutely will. I'm sort of poised
Shout it from the
with bated
rooftops,
breath.
right? All right. Well, I appreciate that. The other, I think I would say, Dean, I think we can acknowledge you as a representative from the health department, because I got a couple of emails from members of this committee that were not able to attend, but we're looking forward to your attendance. And if we do, we have a quorum. So,
Well, Jenna manages those rules, so.
Yep, exactly. So having said that, I put on the agenda a report from Monday's data meeting. I think a lot of you were there, and I don't think it's anything that needs to be summarized. As all of you know, it was a broad discussion of who's involved and what. And as Dean said, I don't think we reached any major conclusions. It was more a desire to use existing structure and not create a large new structure. So, and then Perry, if you would be willing to give us an update on the JAG grant and where that stands in terms of getting an analyst and those things.
I think Kayla from the executive's office responded to you on the status of the JAG grant and said it would be part of the quarterly report.
Okay.
But I don't know if you've seen that email.
I don't think I have.
I can do a minuscule update.
Yeah,
mean,
I don't want anything long and involved. I think if you could give us 2 sentences of sort of where we stand, we're 2 months behind, so.
yeah, so obviously we want to free up Rick's time to help out more. And so Janice is the application supervisor over, Rick and these other open positions. We have done a number of interviews, and I have just actually talked to HR about 30 minutes ago and are trying to move forward with at least one candidate. So we did slow down a little bit on that process because of the county's hiring freeze. So
Mhm.
we weren't able to, we lost about a month as we were,
Yeah.
as the county was kind of just assessing, you know, which positions to move forward with. And then we've also, we've gotten some training for, some basic training for Rick with one of the, you know, the Microsoft BI tool. And I think the other thing is, you know, that position, it's designed to support the criminal justice system and also support the data as well. So it's still kind of a two-pronged thing, and he has, we were having issues in the public defender's case management system, and that resulted in an upgrade that he helped with a couple of weeks ago. Today, he helped the sheriff's office upgrade their ComStat dashboard within their Spillman system. He's working, and Janice as well, and myself as well, with trying to get CAD data automatically being fed into Gelada for the health HID. So, you know, we're always doing something in the criminal justice
So
system. And we're, again, a big part of what we do in IT is the ongoing care and feeding of all these systems. So we know them pretty well. Prosecutor case management system, we're in the first year of that go live. And you know, early next year, we may be in a position to start, you know, looking at some real basic reports.
well,
And
that may
we haven't had that ability. I can't speak for the prosecutor's office, but I think they will be at the point where they'll be able to see some basic data. We don't think that it makes sense to go too far back with prosecutor's office because the data is not going to match well between what's in the new system and what was in the old system. So let's see, was there any other
No, that's excellent.
Caleb's providing us with some system opportunities here soon.
At the jail, right? Good, good. Well, that's what I have certainly learned in my new membership and role as chair on this, is there's a tremendous amount that goes on in the background behind the scenes, because you don't push a button and get all these new systems and the ability to get data, and it's a huge amount of work. And I know from my past life how invaluable IT people are. So I'm sure you get multiple calls in any given day. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the update. So having said that, and with some knowledge that we are slowly but fairly consistently moving forward on building the systems and getting the people needed, I would like to jump into the main reason for this meeting, which is, at the request of Heather and Peter, the chairs, all of our subcommittees are being asked to relook at our mission and see how relevant it is, and if not, how we would recommend changing it to fit in with the Justice Implementation Plan. And data, of course, is a integral part. At the same time, I think our role has morphed considerably. So Jenna, would you mind putting up the the current mission statement, which I suspect to some degree you're all familiar with. I don't think we look at it every day for guidance, but here we go. So this is, I think, 5 years old, if I'm correct. And the mission statement, as you can see, really was to develop a data collecting and reporting system that would enable the policymakers to improve the criminal justice system and decrease jail use. And it had some very specific goals and some very specific tasks if you scroll down. And to the best of my ability, I think a tremendous amount has been done. I understand that. I mean, I've seen a list that originally determine what data has been collected and by whom, and what software is used and what was needed. So my general sense is kudos to all of you who have plugged away at this over the years. At this point, though, I'd like to go back to the very top and just what our overall mission is. I think we would all agree that after some confusion, we really are an advisory committee. And so I don't think we expect of ourselves, and anyone else expects us, to actually develop the system and get it up and working. So having said that, I have, for the sake of discussion only, drafted a new mission statement and set of goals that, if you don't mind putting up, Jenna, this is intended for discussion, okay? I think when you have a short meeting, like an hour, it's really difficult to have an open conversation and craft a new mission statement. I thought it would be easier to react to something. So I think Jenna will have this up in a moment. There we go. So the yellow obviously is the change, and the mission statement, the only change I made in the overall statement is changing from develop a data collection system to advise in the development, which reflects more the advisory role that we are really assigned. And so let's just start there. Does anybody have comments on that, or think we should do this differently? And then we can talk more in detail about the goals and structure.
To my mind, Bertie, that's a good change, and it reflects where we are in our process. So I mean, I would give that a thumbs up.
Okay. Thumbs up from Caleb. Is there anyone who would not like to add? Because I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on whether we're an advisory role or actually the doers. I think we've sorted that out.
I think it's a nice, simple read. It's clear. You might change where you say current IT systems to just say current technology systems.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay.
Because IT is
You're right.
could be
IT,
construed as an organization, but really
right.
they're all over the place, those technology systems.
Can I rely? Okay, Jenna, you're great. Okay. Okay, so then to the goals, this is where I really did make some changes, and I tried to the degree that I can, because I don't think there's a lot of consensus, gather different ideas that I've heard about what the role of the index committee is in 2024. And I look at it a bit like the levels of an airplane, or the levels of altitude we look at it. And to me, the original mission and goals had us right on the ground in the weeds, kind of working on doing the work. And the JPOP committee, which is brand new, but has been given the task of evaluating the data systems and collection, et cetera, I kind of look at, given the size of it, that it's sort of up at the 20 or 30,000 foot level. I think its purpose is to bring in community members, people who may be disadvantaged by race or ethnicity or lived experience with the justice system, and make sure that they have a voice in the measurements we're doing and how we're evaluating our performance. So my thought about our committee is that we're in between. We're more involved on some of the, maybe not day-to-day, but month-to-month decisions. And as Dean said, more interacting more with whatever consultants we have at the time. So that's the spirit in which I wrote these goals, and I'm very happy to have changes, or if you think it's not reflective of what you think this committee should be doing, please say so.
I'm just taking a moment, Bertie, to reread it, so
Oh,
I'll
please
get
do.
back
Yes,
to you.
this is,
Yeah.
I didn't send it out ahead because I wanted to set it in context. I didn't want all of you to think it was anything other than a draft.
Bertie, for me, the first paragraph under goals
Mm-hmm.
is a fair amount of information all in one.
Okay,
statement. I'm
should we
wondering,
split it out?
yeah, I'm wondering if there's opportunity to split it out so that it's easier to digest. For me, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay, I think that was very good. Is there, do you have a particular suggestion? It's not always easy to wordsmith in a group, but if you have an idea, I'd certainly like to hear it.
Yeah, kind of where Jenna's highlighting there, we've
Right.
got this moment where you could say that those are two separate things.
That's a good idea. Yep.
Yep. There you go. That
Yeah.
helps. Thank
Yep.
you.
No, I think that's a good idea. The fourth bullet, I put in partly because at the Monday's meeting, which I think you were all there, you may have heard Jeremy make the point that one of the big issues is getting data sharing agreements between the different agencies. And Caleb, I heard you mention that earlier at previous meetings. And so I wanted to put in the place where we could recommend policy to address issues that came out in the development of this, because he actually stated we may need a county policy around this. So I thought if that were the case, that could be a role that this committee might recognize and be able to recommend.
On first read, this looks good, Bertie, to me. I'm going to want to review it again in light of a couple other things I'm working on. But I think we take this to, I mean, once we get all our comments here, we take this to steering committee and move it forward. I appreciate you taking on what we had asked, which was to review our charter and to reconfigure it. And this and another committee in particular, the Crisis Stabilization Committee, have probably the biggest changes to make of any of our committees.
I realize this is the first read, and so we can either agree with Peter's suggestion to take it to the steering committee for input, or if people would be more comfortable, it's okay if we decide we want to think about it and either come to further consensus by email or whatever people would prefer. So what's the mood in the room? Do any of you think we're missing something? And are there any goals that are not there that should be, or anything that you think is there that should not be?
Hey,
If I could
Bertie.
just say that I think there are folks within the health department and the health information and assessment team that would want to review this, and I'd like to get their input. And so if it's okay, I'd like to take it back to that group, to Lynette's group and Amy Fuller and Jeremy, and have them look at it. And again, I think I may not be the best representative other than simply to keep you informed about the status of the consulting work. But I do think it's important to have someone from that team be on this committee. So that's okay.
In fact, they are on the committee.
They are, okay.
It's just that they were not able to attend today.
Can I just jump in for a sec? There are
Yes,
a couple people in the attendee list who are, let's see, Whatcom County Public Defender and Whatcom County Health and Services. Do you guys
Oh, yes.
want to
Please.
be promoted to panelist?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Jeremy, so I
And
just I
Bertie-
apparently had the wrong link.
Okay.
Bertie, I need to step out at this point.
Okay, well, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, Dean.
Sure, you bet.
Appreciate
And
your.
then let's see, is this Maya by chance?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. I'm in the
Okay.
wrong-
Yeah, no worries.
Welcome, Maya. Didn't know you were here.
Sorry, I haven't been here the whole time, but
Well, that's perfectly okay. So I will, and Jeremy, I don't know how long you've been here. You probably heard me trying to quote you for better or worse.
No, you did perfect. That was 100%.
Okay. All right, so just to bring you very quickly up to speed, the biggest issue of this meeting is to look at our mission statement and revise it because it has clearly served its usefulness over the last 5 years, and it's time for us to number one, recognize our advisory role, and number two, get some clarity on really, with so many fingers in the pie of data, what our role is. And so
No,
this
you're perfect. I was listening the whole time.
yeah, okay, perfect. And so this was my stab at coming up with a draft that we could all look at and react to. And I'm interested in all of your comments. Caleb's made a good change. I think Dean's point about making sure the health department is aware is obviously very important. And so how would folks like to proceed? We do have more time if we want to discuss this further. I would like to get to the structure part to at least get people's ideas on that as well, but we don't have to leave this initial part if people don't feel ready to. So would people mind if I just went around one by one and asked for your thought on take it and run with it, make changes, wait a while and let people stew over it? I think those are kind of the three biggest decision factors. And I in no way want to rush this through. I just realized we only meet every 2 months. So if we thought this was in the ballpark, we could take it to steering committee and get their reactions and feedback and then bring it back. So comments?
Well,
Yes, thanks, Perry.
I like the changes. It's simple. It's more, as you said earlier, advisory. If you think about, we had a meeting on Monday and that group had an assignment, inventory systems and things like that.
Mhm.
Okay, we can help with that.
Right.
So, and I think that's what this group has been looking for is, and now that we're bringing consultants in and things like that, they're going to have some well-defined things for those of us closer to the data and the systems to be able to help make available to that next level up. So I think this is a good change.
Okay. How about others? Peter, you've already commented. Maya, I know you're looking at this fresh, so that's a little unfair. Rick or John Elise or Caleb?
Yeah, no, I think it looks good. I think it's very straightforward. The goals seem pretty clear. In my mind, I'm trying to get to the next steps a little bit about who's going to do
Oh, I
the work.
know,
It's hard
I
to get
know.
out of that,
It's hard to
from
not
from the
get to it.
IT perspective.
Exactly.
Like,
Right,
are we
right.
advising but also going to do it too? But
I know.
yeah. And then I was trying to look up policies about data sharing agreements and stuff, and the state OCIO has
Right,
certain requirements. And so I was trying to figure out if that was at like an RCW level and do we need to have an additional policy at a county level or not? And yeah,
I think, as we said, policies as necessary. So
Yeah.
it's not that we're going to leap out and make, but if we come along and discover that there are issues that need a county policy, then we might be the group that brings it forward to IPRTF. That was my thought about that.
yes. No, but as written, I mean, I think it's very clear, straightforward. I like it. It's simple and it states a good purpose. So I like it.
Okay. Are we ready for just a brief show of hands on, shall we move forward with this? This is to the level of the goals. We have to talk about structure, and if you'd rather, we could do that first and then do the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to imagine how this fits into the big picture. So like if my department is a collector of data and trying to also distill it, but we're not doing that effectively. We don't have like the vision or the tools to do that very well. Oops.
Well, I think you're right. And
Well, that wasn't the end of what I was. I'm sorry, I just got distracted because that left the screen. So I understood that the county is gonna employ, hopefully there'll be a position of someone who's gonna be in charge of creating justice system data collection and reporting. And so I would assume that our department would work directly with that person and try to do it in this index. The goal then here is that the index committee would just provide, like, what's the level of involvement, or I don't know, like I'm just trying to see where because I would just go to the person the county employs to work on data and work with them. And like I guess I'm like, where is the index committee inserted in that process? Does this making sense?
yes, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a very good question. And to some extent, it leads a little bit to the structure. So let's roll that into this discussion. What the wording here is that from the original, that the index committee was supposed to have a technical work group and a policy work group. And it was determined that the policy work group was the entire IPRTF, and those on this committee were the technical work group. So this work group is highly made up of technical people, and someone from each major agency, like you from the Department of Justice, Maya, kind of representing the data that you contribute and or need. And so my thought about this, as the entire plan around data is going to change in terms of who does the work. And I really listened to Kayla when she said, you give us what you want and we'll make it happen. But, kind of don't expect all of my folks to come to all these endless meetings about it. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so I think we probably want to relook at what kind of people do we want on this committee, and have that discussion.
Bertie, I have a thought or two.
Yeah, please.
May I go ahead? And this is, I'm not saying this is the way it ought to be, and I'm putting this more out there for discussion. I am so glad we had Monday's meeting. It's great to see this kicked off. I am also delighted that we have a hiring process underway for the next informatics person or I cannot remember the Perry, what is the title for what we're hiring for?
So
Going
we're in layperson's terms, it's the back end data person, but the title is the senior applications administrator.
Okay, all right.
Did I
And
get
that
that right?
is
Huh?
so. What's Rick's position then called?
Rick is a senior applications administrator,
Okay.
and he is interested in being the senior application administrator that's got more of a focus on this project and just criminal justice systems.
Mhm.
Right now,
Okay.
right now he is doing more like web and things outside of the criminal justice system. So we're trying to backfill his position so we can free up his time.
I see. That's the hiring
he's-
that's going on
He's both
now.
he's both
there-
positions
there-
right now.
There was another position that we have been hearing from Sat Paul and Kayla were going to be hired, and my understanding was that they were going to join the team at in Jeremy's office there at the health department. What is that position called?
I
Do
mean,
we
it was
know?
when things were being budgeted the last year or two, you know, was more of an informatics position. But I
Right.
think when we started moving forward with the senior applications administrator position, there was a question as to should a consultant help out, be that position, or should it be a county employee? And I would have to
I see.
defer to the Sat Paul and Kayla and Allie on what they're thinking at this point.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I do know that there's some consternation that um, that that position is not being hired for. I'm not entirely sure where we're going next with that, because my understanding is that would be a pretty key position for actually getting the informatics work accomplished. So I'm not entirely sure what to say about that. I do like the fact that we seem to be moving forward. I am I'm heartened by that. It seems like after Monday's meeting, we have an excellent movement forward. It does appear to me that we do need policy makers to be in this group, perhaps Bertie, to advise on and organize to give Village Reach, you know, the input that they need. And so I'm my question, I guess, to everybody here is, how important is it that we have a technical work group in this meeting? I mean, I am looking to save you all from doing meetings that are not going to accomplish anything. Now that we have this effort underway, you know, maybe this becomes more policy focused and we have one technical resource to help guide us. I don't know. That's my thought. Anybody like to speak to that?
I think you know, if we think about the data, it's across a very large group of departments and agencies,
Mhm.
and I think it's going to take more than one person to do that coordination and make it happen. You know, we in IT are supporting most of these systems, and you know, we work closely with Maya on the public defender's case management system. We work closely with Caleb on the Spillman system. But I think, you know, it's not just county systems that we're looking at, it's also city systems and small city systems, and there's a lot out there. So I think it's bigger than one technical person.
Okay.
It's a group
What
of,
type of person, Perry? I'm not necessarily asking for names, but I wouldn't mind. But is there, you know, if you were to envision the technical part, I'm not sure we would have a subcommittee necessarily, but we could always make a work group anytime we wanted. But who would you like to see? What positions represented for the technical piece of this?
well, I guess I'd go back to what the data partnership meeting asked for on Monday. And they basically
Got it.
asked for an inventory of systems.
Got it.
And honestly, between Caleb and Rick and Johnny's and Jeremy, we could probably put that together, 90% of that together in probably an hour.
Uh-huh, good. So, my thought was, from the outside looking in, that the folks you just named would stay on this committee. And I am not inviting anybody by any means to leave, but I know we have had representatives of the small cities police department, data and on. I don't know if that level of involvement at these meetings is necessary, or if we can gather that information elsewhere. I'm just trying to be very sensitive to everybody's busy schedules without uninviting anybody who's interested or you feel should be here.
Well, in a way, county government is regional government,
Right.
and we have these partnerships with the city, the small cities, Western, not just IT, but
Right.
Maya is public defense for the entire county. So again, I think the county can be the one that facilitates that. But again, I would need to defer to those above me before committing to something like that.
Yeah, right. Well, again, remembering that we are going to be advisory. And this is, I think we're going to have to feel our way with this. So maybe we start with the current committee structure and invite additional members more on the policy side. And then as we proceed over the next few months, we can decide if we can, if we need fewer people. People could decide their participation isn't that helpful and they would volunteer not to be involved, or they may decide that it's really important to be here because we're talking about issues that directly impact and you want a voice in it. So,
Well, let's just think a little bit about the specific thing that was requested of everybody on Monday.
right.
An inventory of systems and data.
Mm-hmm.
We've done most of that work already in Index.
Mm-hmm.
A small group could go back and dust that off.
Okay.
And then circulate it and have people add to it.
That sounds like an excellent
I don't know
idea.
that we would need to do it in it'd be more of a work group where we'd get
Yeah.
a lot of the people that, actually helped to build that historically. And we
Right.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then we have it passed up the chain and we're available to
Mhm.
answer questions or do more digging.
That sounds like a good plan to me. I mean, one style of our meeting as index committee that is personally attractive to me is having, as needed, small informal work groups and more communication, less than face-to-face, like circulating it among members and getting input, and then moving ahead, because we only meet every 2 months. And I'm not asking for more meetings. I think we could get a lot done if we had that informal mechanism.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it worked early on in the Index years.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb is probably the best one to articulate kind of what we accomplished, but we had a small group, and it was Caleb and Rick and Johnny's and myself, and it was a couple people from the city of Bellingham, and our focus was on getting better reports published out for just their daily needs.
Right.
I mean, there were these overarching project needs, but at the end of the day, everybody said, well, that's great to talk about longer term, but what we need is the information right now to make our jobs better. And so we focused on that, and there was some,
right.
Rick and Caleb and others did some really nice work.
Well, I'm very comfortable with that. And in addition, as we see our role also not necessarily expanding, but implementing more of the advisory piece around prioritizing things. We might want to invite a couple of people that might reflect that more than the feet on the ground in the technology world to join us.
Well, the other thing is, you know, we have to work closely with the owners of the data. You know, those of us in IT, we don't own the data, and we're not gonna publish it or interpret it or anything else without an expert,
Right.
because it's their data. You know, it's Maya's
Right.
data, it's Caleb's data, it's
Yep.
Raylene's data, it's Eric Ritchie's data. So we have to
And
work
that's kind of
closely
what
with
Yeah.
the agency in how we mine the data, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are gonna help make sure it's the right data getting to the right places.
Absolutely. And at the same time, if we're going to want to integrate data in order to have a sense on a policy level, if some of the things we're doing as part of the implementation plan are successful, we're going to have some agreements that that data is shared for that purpose. And so that's kind of the level I'm aiming at in this discussion is, you know, who is going to be helping facilitate that? And that could be a role of our committee because we do have the broad representation.
That seems appropriate, Bertie. And I think that we look at our membership as we move on, and we can ask people to join us. I'm heartened to hear that Perry's thoughts on that we have the right technical people in the room. You know, I think that the meeting cadence seems probably appropriate at this point. So
Okay.
I like where you've taken this. I'm gonna ask to have a moment to ask a question of the group when you're feeling done with this
Okay.
part of it.
I think we're wrapping this up. I just want to ask for clarity. Does anyone feel the need to continue the piece that says we have a technical work group and a policy work group, or are we comfortable simply having the index committee? And we can have individual work groups anytime we need them. I'm seeing some heads nod.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. So Jenna, we can just eliminate that structure part then. Because it's sort of artificial and we've never, I mean, you've had the technical work group, but the policy one has never really gone anywhere. Okay. All right. Anyone have anything to add to this before we move on? So just by a show of hands, raise your hand or say aye or something if you're comfortable with me taking this forward to the steering committee for input. I see heads nodding, some hands up. Okay. All right, then that's what we'll do. Anyone object and want to stop the show before it moves on? Okay, good. Well, thank you. This has been a really helpful discussion. I appreciate all your willingness to input it. So we have 10 minutes left. Let's go to Peter and his question, and then we'll leave time for anybody from the public to comment if they're desiring. Go ahead, Peter.
It was great to see you all at Monday's meeting, and I brought forward some thoughts about Measures for Justice, this nonprofit that is working in this area, and their product team. They have a product called Commons, which Yolo County has in California has as implemented. And I was just wondering if any of you are familiar with Measures for Justice and the product, and so if I could see any hands for that. Perry, your hand's up, but I'm not sure. I think that
Oh.
might be from before.
Left over, okay.
I'm
Okay.
quickly Googling it to say yes.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable how how much work has been done on the very things that we're working on here. And I would just encourage any of you to take the, I don't know, 45 minutes to look at the Commons product, look at the policy goals, the measures that they're showing, the way that they're tracking the data. It's just fantastic. I love what they've done here, and it's a nationwide effort. And I would think that all of you on this call would support their effort to have data across the whole country that is consistent. And you just look at this, the work that they have done on policy, on data, on this product, on their reports and such. And it seems to me that it might be something that we can learn from, and perhaps we should have them come talk to us. So anyway.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the name, Peter? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's Measures for Justice.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I mean, there's so much to see on their website, but I think in about an hour, you could pretty much get an idea of what they're up to and how it might be helpful to us. And again, you can go to Yolo County, California. Their Commons is the product that Measures for Justice has. They've rolled it out in one jurisdiction so far, and rolling it out in others. And I would think that you would delight at what it is that they're up to there, and see how it could help us. So I just wanted to really encourage you guys to see that.
I think many of us are looking at their site right now, Peter, and I see Washington is now on their list, and they're saying Thurston County, Washington prosecutor is who they're in progress with.
Oh,
That's right.
interesting.
That's right. Yeah. And their report, it's a 7-page report on that I would encourage you to find. This is all in that spreadsheet that Marty had us fill out. So it's all the links I've provided in that spreadsheet. I'm not sure if everybody has access to that, but I'd be happy to send it out again to this group.
Peter, would you do that? I think that would just simplify it for everybody as they're busy.
Sure, sure. Well, you guys on this call are the ones that I want to have see it the most, because you can tell me whether this is going to be this is completely out of left field, or this is spot on, or somewhere in between. So after this call, I'll gather those links and send them out to you all.
Or you could probably send it to Jenna, who could send it out.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes, Jenna, thank you.
Volunteering you, Jenna, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, that's what I got.
Okay. Well, Jenna, do we have anyone from the public that would like to comment?
It looks like our conference room is empty, and we do have Marty in the attendee list. If you want to
welcome,
raise your
Marty.
hand, Marty,
Would you
go
like to
ahead and
comment?
talk.
I was just listening in out of interest, and it has been an interesting conversation. Y'all are on a good track. Good to hear.
Okay, thank
Marty,
you.
since you're there, does everybody have access to the spreadsheet that we're filling out? Could they get the links that I put in that spreadsheet? Or...
Yeah, in the notes that went out this morning is a link to that Google sheet right in the body of the email. You can click on that and you'll see Peter's addition to the spreadsheet. And please go in there and add anything you want. I loved hearing Perry talk about being able to kind of pull together a whole list of data systems, and that's wonderful. That would be fabulous to have on that spreadsheet. And if there's a better format for it, Perry, or any of you,
Could I send
Send
some
it
off the shelf
as-
things to
Yeah.
you?
sure. Absolutely.
Perry, in our meetings earlier this year, you created something, it seemed like you created for me, and it was fantastic. That would be something I think the group would benefit.
Yeah,
from
that's
seeing.
the kind of material I was thinking of.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks, Marty. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, very much for your attendance, and we'll move on. See you in December.